It's time for This Day in History. Because nature is but art unknown to thee, and chance direction which thou canst not see, on our 100th episode on This Day in History in 1911, Ronald Reagan was born. And on this very same day in 1985, Ronald Reagan announced his foreign policy program, the Reagan Doctrine, which has been badly misunderstood by his political descendants. So Ronald Reagan was born a good American boy. He grew up and became a star of film and television. I'm sorry, I've lost my place. He was called a dunce by the left and self-appointed elite, conservatives alike. He entered the Oval Office at an advanced age. He was divorced and remarried. He fought cultural battles from the White House. He frequently added provocative lines to his speeches that drove his advisors crazy. He effected tax cuts and deregulation at home and strength abroad. And he restored America's leadership in the world after a disastrous Democrat administration. Yeah, that's where I was. That's what I couldn't find. That sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? That must be deja vu. I don't know. On this day in 1985, on his birthday, Reagan articulated the foreign policy strategy that would come to be known as the Reagan Doctrine. He explained, quote, "Freedom is not the sole prerogative of a chosen few. It is a universal right of all God's children." He went on, "We must stand by our democratic allies, and we must not break faith with those who are risking their lives on every continent, from Afghanistan to Nicaragua, to defy Soviet-supported aggression and secure rights which have been ours from birth. Support for freedom fighters is self-defense." These lines have regularly been ridiculed in the wake of September 11th, as we now fight groups of radical Muslims who appear similar to some of the freedom fighters we once supported, even though really that point isn't even true. There's this left-wing suggestion that we funded Osama bin Laden in the 1980s. That's patently false. But Reagan's words are entirely true. Unfortunately, they're usually quoted out of context. The freedom fighters risked their lives to defy Soviet-supported aggression, to defy communism, our mortal enemy. The Reagan Doctrine does not exist in the ether, floating above reality, above time and space. The Reagan Doctrine guided the country to its victory in the Cold War. We won the Cold War. Ronald Reagan won the Cold War, and now we're here. And we can long for the days of Ronald Reagan. The Gipper was a great man, and the 1980s were a great time. In many ways, it was more sophisticated, and it was more polite, and it was more civilized. But now we're in a different time, with different priorities and different challenges and different political leaders. Applying strategies outside of their time and context can prove disastrous, as we've seen in several interventions. Longing for the good old days is the sign of a decadent culture. A healthy culture moves forward. Ronald Reagan didn't try to solve the problems of Chester Arthur or Grover Cleveland. So too, we should honor the Reagan legacy by living in our own time and space and applying his guiding principles, along with timeless philosophy and enduring tradition, to the challenges we face today. To quote two great men, that's the only way that we'll ever make America great again.